Hi guys, it's me, Lympho Mama, and this is my friend Bella, and I'm here to talk about my daughter's journey with Hodgkin's lymphoma and me as her mama. And I'm very excited today to start a three-part series called What the Doctors Don't Tell You. And today I'm going to talk about nausea. So I knew in the back of my mind that chemo could cause nausea. And being the freak that I am, I went on my computer and ordered 100 vomit bags from Amazon. And I put them all over the place. I put them in my pocketbook, in the chemo bag, in the car, by her nightstand, in the kitchen, where we watch TV, everywhere. And the good news is that we only had to use around 7 of those bags. But there's a long story to go on with that, so I hope you could learn something from this part 1 of my series about nausea. So she went to the hospital, to the clinic. She was getting her chemo in the clinic at Children's National, which is a great hospital. And she was there her very first day, and all they gave her was Zofran, which is an anti-nausea medicine. So we got back in the car after 7 hours of the first day of chemo, and we had to drive in rush hour traffic in Washington, D.C. Am I boring you, Bella? To come home, and she was pretty groggy, and her head was going back and forth because she was sleeping. So one tidbit is to buy a neck pillow for the car so it could support their neck when they're coming home because they will be groggy. Anyway, we got home, and my husband helped her out of the car, and the second she stepped foot in the house, she said she smelled like cheap pizza. That's what she said. And she ran upstairs, and she started to vomit. And that continued for 3 times. She just could not hold anything down. And I was getting concerned because, 1, it was her first chemo, but 2, she was due for her prednisone. And I think this little doggy needs to get down. So anyway, she was due for her prednisone, which was very important. And I didn't know what to do. She didn't want to take her prednisone. So I called the fellow on call, because it was now 7 o'clock at night or 7:30. And they said, look, if she can't hold anything down, you have to bring her back to the hospital and come through the ER. And I was like, oh my goodness. And my daughter was so drained, and she was so frustrated, and she wouldn't listen to me to go back. And she was scared to go back to the hospital. So I left, and I told my husband, I can't do anything. And I'm from New York. I'm very passionate, and I'm Italian. I'm very loud, and I guess not very calm. But my husband's a Southerner, and he's very quiet. And he said, leave her alone, I'll go up there. So he went upstairs, and he sat on the edge of her bed, and he talked to her very calmly. And he convinced her to get up, and he helped her all the way down the stairs. And we put her in the car. While he was doing that, I'm packing clothes for her and clothes for me because I didn't know where we were going with all this. And we drove back to the emergency, and they gave her an IV right away. And within 3 hours, this was like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and we're all very tired, she was admitted to the hospital to get her 2nd and 3rd treatment of the first cycle. I was actually relieved. I didn't want her to be home. I felt everything would be better in the hospital. She would have care. So she went in, and I got to say, I don't know, we talked to the doctors the next day, and they said, oh, we can give her other medicines. And to this day, I'm a little bit perplexed why they not load her up on medicines to begin with. So we would have never had this problem, because it was a hell of a way to be introduced to chemo and then having to go back and stay in the hospital. We didn't need to do this. Anyway, what they did, they gave her Zofran, alternating every 6 hours with Ativan. In addition to that, they gave her Amend, which is an IV drug that they do once a month to prevent the nausea as well, and the Ativan is as well. And I think they gave her something else. But they just loaded her up. And guess what? She didn't have much nausea after that. I will say that every cycle, the first 2 or 3 days, she did have to do the Ativan alternating with the Zofran, but she didn't like the Ativan. I didn't like the Ativan. It made her very loopy. It made her have like an outer body experience where she was looking in on herself and she wasn't talking very coherent, but it made her sleep, which was really good. It knocked her out. But, you know, her body needed to rest. So I just don't know why we had to go through that hell of being admitted back into the hospital. And I'm trying to say, I'm looking at my notes here to see if I forgot anything. But I will say in closing that being on that regimen of Zofran alternating with Ativan every 6 hours for the first 2 days of the cycle, and then getting off the Ativan and being on the Amend, which was an IV, did her a world of good. So my suggestion to you is when you have your consult with your oncologist, ask them, what do you do for nausea? Okay, and if they just say, well, we're just going to give you Zofran, say, hey, can you start me on something a little bit more? Because I know with my daughter, she's very temperamental to medicine. So I should have picked up that, no, that's not going to be enough, okay? You need to educate yourself. Read the handbooks beforehand to know what's going on. And just have hope. Things will get better. And it's very important that you get this nausea under control because you don't want to lose weight, okay? Your goal is to maintain your weight. And if you're nauseous, you're not going to want to eat. So please look into this. And thank you very much. And my next in the series is going to talk about constipation.